it's Florida. So having said that, I want you to know how much I share the frustrations of everybody involved. While the great official end of my office is largely focused on figuring out how to prepare the claims for the state of Florida, for our own state there'll be revenue losses, lost opportunity cost, which means like when the fish and wildlife folks are out there doing something here, they're not taking care of the rivers or the lakes or the things they should be. Enormous numbers of things that will add up for the state's damages. And that's not to mention local governments. They also will have those kind of impacts. And I do care about all of that, and we worked hard on it. And I am pleased, though not completely satisfied, because I don't know how it's going to work completely, with the fact that the President did one thing right. He set up an escrow account with BP. I asked for one for Florida. We now have this $20 billion escrow account, and I'm going to give him his due for that. But I'm going to tell you that overall, this President and this administration have not done the work they should have done. They've been far too slow, they have not responded properly, and they are still not doing the job right. And I'm not letting BP off the hook. BP is ultimately responsible. But today, I had a letter to Secretary Napolitano, the Secretary of Homeland Security, expressing, I think I may have used the word frustration because I didn't want to use the word angry, but I'm angry. Because a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago now, I guess about 3, I flew in a Black Hawk helicopter out over the Gulf from Pensacola Beach, and we couldn't see a boat, not a skimmer anywhere. But we certainly saw the oil sheen that's been hanging out there with the oil for a lot of days that we've been fortunate it hadn't come ashore as strongly as it has the last couple of days. And we came back, and in press availability, I made that point, talked about the absence of some of the technical new inventions and ideas, and no apparent attention to those. In addition, not having skimming vessels, and where were the decision makers, and a lot of other things. We now, I'm told, have 28 skimming vessels. They vary a little bit out there. But let me tell you what, that's 28 off our water somewhere off the, Panama City, Pensacola, wherever. But we could use a lot more, and there are a lot more available. A large skimming vessel that are the type that are available out there in use will go 40 or 50 miles a day on a good day when the weather permits. They'll be able to take up oil over a space on the surface of about 250 feet, maybe if we're lucky 500 feet. So we need a lot of it, because you've got to realize there's miles and miles of this stuff out there, not to mention what's underneath the water, waiting and lurking. But in any event, I learned last week, there's a company in Jacksonville, because I'd called for the waiver of the Jones Act, which you may or may not know is I was the first one to do that, by the way, and I got on Greta's show, and then everybody else joined. I'm glad they did. It still hasn't been waived, by the way. But that's the provision, since you were applauded, you obviously recognize is needed for foreign flag vessels to do certain activities in our waters. But, and skimmers are included in that. But when I did, I listened and heard from a constituent, a company in Jacksonville named Crowley Maritime. And I'm not plugging a particular company, but they said, whoa, we got a lot of American flag vessels. We own skimmers. And they said to me, we got 4 of them in Louisiana. And we got them all over the world, and we'd like to put them to work in the Gulf skimming, but nobody will listen to us, the Coast Guard or the administration or anybody else. So I sent a letter to her today, to the Secretary Napolitano. I can copies to the Coast Guard, the Commandant, and a lot of other people. I'm not sending a letter just for the sake of sending a letter. This is wrong. There's something really fundamentally wrong when we are not seeing the available vessels, the available tools put to work out in the Gulf, and there's no one else to blame but this administration and President Obama's leadership. I don't care how many speeches he gives, I don't know how many times he tries to come down and make it up. They need to get their act together. We need to protect the state of Florida. Now, the second thing I want to mention to you is official, and it was already mentioned by Adam. You know, and he mentioned it, that I have a lawsuit. I'm very proud of a team of 20 states now and the National Federation of Independent Business that have joined together with us in this lawsuit to declare the new health care bill law now unconstitutional. And I want to praise my Attorney General team again. We're leading that charge. We have our Solicitor General, my Deputy Chief Staff and Deputy Attorney General. We've gotten a team that's out there working hard in conjunction with all these others. And we will have the first hearing on this in September, a motion to dismiss that the federal government has filed. We will win that. I really believe we will win that motion. If not, it will be a temporary setback. We'll come back. But I believe we will. And then it goes on to Judge Vincent, who is out in Pensacola, to make a decision, which I hope and pray that he makes by the end of the year, but I don't know. I don't know how long it'll take him to decide. It is not a complicated case from a law standpoint. It's pretty straightforward. And then we're going to take it and ask for an expedited procedure, a fast track, if you will, to the Supreme Court. I do not know if we get it or not, but in a year or two, in a couple of years, 3 years at the latest, and I hope sooner, this case will be before the United States Supreme Court. And they're going to have to decide one of the most fundamental issues of constitutional law to affect you and me and all of our fellow countrymen in many a year. It's an issue of not just states' rights, but individual rights. What is the role of the federal government? Just how expansive can Congress be? The Founding Fathers created a valuable document. And when they founded our nation, in our Constitution, they clearly set forth that there were enumerated powers, and only enumerated powers that the federal government had, and the rest of those that they did not enumerate were reserved to the states. Now, there is no place in the Constitution anywhere that it says that the Congress or the federal government can make you pay a penalty for failing to buy a product. Now, the insurance product in this case is a contract to buy insurance. You're sitting at home in front of your TV. You're sitting in here tonight, and you're not doing anything. And they're saying you're going to pay a penalty or tax for this. I don't even concede it's a tax. It's a penalty. The reality is they're telling you you've got to do that. If the Commerce Clause, which is the argument on the other side, is that elastic, that it covers that, what doesn't it cover? What doesn't it cover? Now, I know this is going to be a 5-4 decision in the United States Supreme Court. We will win Kennedy's vote. I believe we really will. And we're going to be on the winning side. But there are going to be 4 justices, because that's the way they are, 4 liberal justices who are going to decide a case the same way they decide too many others. They're going to look at it and they're going to say, this is a living document. We don't have to look at the history. We don't have to look at the era of facts. We're going to decide on what we think is right, and we think there ought to be a national health care bill, and Congress passed it, and everybody ought to share the burden, and blah, 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 and they're going to write that way. But I pray and I hope and I believe that when the Supreme Court makes its decision, we're going to win that case, because that's what the Founding Fathers intended. They never intended for the federal government to take this kind of control over our lives and tell us what to do, or allow this big health insurance bill to pass on and become law. Now, in this little segment, by telling you there is another provision in this besides that which we are contesting, and that has to do with the Medicaid provisions. 27% of the state budget goes to Medicaid today. 27% of Florida's budget. There are many new enrollees that will be qualified and eligible for Medicaid under this law. And over a very short period of time, Florida's budget, which is already having a lot of problems, is going to have to pay a lot more money out for this. And we didn't ask to do this. We didn't agree to that way back when they set up Medicaid. They unilaterally decided in Congress that the states were going to have to pay this additional amount by adding these people to the rolls. They didn't ask us, and they did that. It's the greatest commandeering of state assets in the history of the country. It is taking away, when they do that, the kind of resources that we need for education, for foster care, for keeping prisoners in prison, from carrying out the duties and the obligations that a state has. And the federal government is telling this to us, and I believe, and all the others who joined us from the other states believe deeply, that this is a violation of the 10th Amendment, that we have the right of states being violated here. Not just that there's no enumerated power in this case, but there's an explicit violation of the 10th Amendment. And I fully expect the Supreme Court to rule in our favor on that as well. Now,